Hey, good afternoon. Ken Jolliffe with BIS Commodities in Cedar Rapids with your weekly ag commodity roundup for October 16th. This week on the grain side of things, corn market ended up trading down about 5.5 cents. Soybean market up about 14.5 cents. Wheat was down about 6 cents for the week. On the livestock, feeder cattle up about $4.65. Hogs were down 70 cents, and live cattle were up about $4 on the week. Highlights for the week, primarily in the grains here. To begin with, the grain saw a midweek rally in the soybean complex that saw a lot of the moving averages taken out to the top side. We saw some commodity fund type buying come in there, along with the technical picture being positive at the time. That took us up to close to 9.20 on the November contract. Now we did, fail here on Thursday and Friday to pull the futures back down towards $9. During the run-up, there was a fair amount of cash movement in beans across the countryside as the Eastern Corn Belt is wrapping up on harvest. The Western Corn Belt will probably complete much of the bean harvest this weekend. The demand side of the picture for soybeans continues to be dominated by the Chinese, as we've seen daily purchases announced from USDA on Chinese purchases. The weekly export sales this week were again strong at just under 1.5 million metric tons, and again primarily most of that went to China. A lot of this is being lifted out of the Gulf for right now, as transportation costs are cheaper going down that direction, so the movement's been down through the river. Corn side of things, demand continues to lag. When you look at the export business, it's still strictly routine business, a little bit of Japanese business, a little bit of Mexican business, but we continue to lag behind that. It's surprising, probably many of the analysts, that we didn't have the USDA lower the export number last week in their projections for this year, this marketing year. Harvest activity, as we move across the Corn Belt, as I said earlier, the bean harvest is virtually complete in the east. Corn harvest is wrapping up quickly in the east. Once you get on the west side of the river, most of the bean harvest will be done this weekend. Corn harvest is being rapidly moved along. The receipts are heavy going into the elevators here right now, with many areas starting to fill up and see corn and bean piles outside. As far as basis levels, basis continues to firm in the Eastern Corn Belt, as the farmers have pretty much locked that crop away. The Western Corn Belt basis has been steady to slightly easier. The easier markets are nationally in the far northern parts of the region, more in the southern Minnesota and the Dakotas, where the infrastructure isn't quite as great to handle the top yields that we've been hearing about. I think as we move forward, going into to next week and probably the last part of October, the focus again will be on the money flow as far as the futures market. Corn market did fall below the moving averages here late this week. As I said, the money came into the bean complex early, but seemed to not be able to sustain, the rally going into Thursday and Friday. Thing to watch probably is the direction of the dollar going into next week. The past couple of weeks, we have seen the weakness in the dollar that has produced some money flow coming into commodities as a general, because we saw the CRB index being positive here the past couple of weeks. When you look at some of the other commodities, as far as like coffee, sugar, and some of those, they've had a good bounce off the mid-September lows that I think came into the bean market here along with the moving averages. Corn market probably continue to hold its level here towards the lower end of the trading range until we get a little deeper into harvest and see if we produce any more cash movement at this particular time. Really, if you take the corn market and eliminate the late June, early July rally, we've been primarily in the same 40-cent trading range in the December is between basically $3.60 and $4 since back last spring. So I don't really foresee that to go any different as we move into the latter part of the month. So other than that, then, the news is somewhat stagnant as you take a look at what's going on across the countryside. Competition, when you look at the wheat side of things, corn side of things is strong worldwide. The supplies are ample, and there's plenty of cheap wheat, coming out of the Black Sea area here yet, and plenty of corn seems to be available in Brazil at this particular time. So it's going to keep a lid on our corn and wheat export business. Bean side of things will continue to be dominated by the Chinese business. We'll see if there's any more announcements next week as we get started again. So along with that, have yourself a safe harvest weekend. We'll see you later.